I think of course the security situation is challenging, that we all know. But I do believe in fact that overall we are making progress. Yes, there will be incidents of the kind we saw on Sunday and the kind we saw in January at the Serena Hotel, where I happened to be part of the Norwegian delegation at the time. But I do believe that overall there is an improvement, and that in very large parts of the country the situation is quite stable.
Do you think the so-called insurgency is spreading? Do you think it's spreading outside the areas that traditionally have been the base for Taliban attacks?
Not really. I think you will see incidents outside that area, but generally I think that is not the case, and that we are, together with the Afghan National Army, making progress in combating the insurgency.
What problems do you see with the international security effort to try and improve the situation on the ground?
I think the most important thing we could do is to build the Afghan National Army and their security forces in general. There much progress has been made with regard to the army, and as you know, President Karzai said that in September, October, or this autumn, the ANA would take over responsibility for Kabul. I think that's a very important step in the right direction. Then we are making some progress with regard to the police, but we're moving too slowly, and we have to invest more time, more resources in the training of the police, so that the police can serve the people and create security across the country. And we're obviously not there yet, but I do believe that we are making some progress.
What more can be done on the part of the support for multinational forces in the international community?
With regard to the military?
Yes, exactly.
I think that you have seen over the last period a certain build-up of forces that has been required, but the most important thing we can do is to invest in the Afghan National Army and the Afghan police. This is Afghanistan, is their country. We are very, very much preoccupied with seeing to it that the Afghans can themselves take the lead, take the ownership, not only on the security side but across the board. That has to remain our highest priority.
Your role, I mean, you've spoken about the international military effort being under-resourced and uncoordinated. What will be your role in trying to...
But I said that the international civilian resources are not spent in a sufficiently coordinated way. I think what you see today is a fragmented international community, but a strong international community, facing a fragmented Afghan administration that of course is a weak administration that needs capacities. That cannot continue anymore. We have to come together in a much more coherent way. That is one of the priorities on my agenda, and for that I'll be given full support in Europe, here in the United States, and also by the Afghan government. They are the ones who call for this because they see the difficulties that arise when we are not sufficiently coordinated.
What will you be asking for from President Bush when you meet him later today? I mean, he's criticised some of the NATO efforts as being inefficient at fighting a counterinsurgency. As some in Europe have criticised the US effort as not providing enough forces, with the focus very heavily on Iraq. What will you be asking and talking about with President Bush?
I think our priority will be very different from what you're now outlining. There's a conference in Paris coming up on the 12th of June, where the Afghan government will launch their Afghan National Development Strategy. That is a key document for us, and for us in the international community, and even more, of course, for the Afghan government. It is so important that we now align our resources behind that plan, provide greater resources, use them more effectively, and coordinate our efforts. That is in itself is a tremendous task, but the highlight of that meeting in Paris on the 12th of June will be their strategy and our efforts to support it and see to it that it is implemented. What I want to see is an effort that is very much delivery oriented, and ensuring that what we do comes together in one strategy behind the documents that the Afghan government has presented to us.
I mean, how long do you think it's going to be before these forces can operate without the support of multinational forces? I mean, it's going to be some time.
It's difficult to predict. I think there is progress being made, but now you're again focusing on the forces. I'm more preoccupied for the moment with what happens with regard to aid development, reconstruction, and also what happens to the building of other institutions. The government structure, where I must say that we have seen some progress, but there is a long way to go, and we must unite behind that effort, really. It's so important. Security is one matter, development another, but we have to ensure that that structure of institutions exists that can sustain the progress that we're making. This, to me, is the first priority.
Should Afghanistan's neighbors be doing more?
I think we need, certainly, and also part of my mandate, to have a regional dialogue that is more developed than it is today. I will visit the regional countries in the region, first of all to Islamabad and Tehran, to start that kind of dialogue from the point of view of the UN and see how we can contribute to that. This will be, I hope, a regular dialogue. Then let me say also that what I would like to see is that the countries in the wider region will provide more resources to the development of Afghanistan than what we see today. More resources are required, more donors are required, but I must say, perhaps one of the most important things is to see to it that we spend our assistance and our development aid in a well-coordinated and effective way. And there also, there's a long way to go.
What do you think the risks are for, I mean, if that support isn't forthcoming, what do you think the potential consequences could be?
My agenda is to mobilize that support, and that's what I will try to do. That's what the entire international community will try to do, to make sure that the Paris conference becomes another demonstration of a commitment to the Afghan people, and to see to it that what we deliver in terms of services, in terms of support to the Afghan government, benefits the people across the country. That is really my most important concern, that it reaches the people on the ground.
I just wanted to ask you briefly about the opium production in Afghanistan. There's I mean, it's still a very strong opium producing country. What's your is that a high priority for you to tackle that problem?
Of course, that is something that is of great concern to all of us, to see the level of production, how it went up last year. Probably we can expect a somewhat similar production level this year. It means that there is a lot to do in that area, and that we have not managed to achieve the results that we should have achieved and that we wanted to achieve. So this certainly is one of the areas of great concern. Now what I think has to happen is, first of all, we have to develop the police and the justice system more than we've done so far. We have to see to it that the government institutions are stronger than they are today, at the central level, the provincial level, and at the more local level. And we also have to see to it that the agricultural sector is being developed. That, to me, also is an area that has not been given sufficient priority. And I do hope that as we move forward, development of the agricultural sector will be an area that we will devote more resources and attention to.
Well, those efforts have been going on for many years now in terms of trying to build up the Afghan security force. I mean, do you think the situation is more urgent now than it has been before, or I mean, why do you think things are going to change in the foreseeable future?
I think we do see a certain change in, for instance, the thinking of European countries, who do want to spend more resources and participate in a more ambitious way in building up the police and building up the justice sector. Yes, you're absolutely right. Not sufficient attention has been paid to this, and we talked about it for years. That is not uncommon in conflict regions and in countries that find themselves in a situation that Afghanistan does. We do have a tendency not to place the right priority on the police and particular justice system, and we have to learn from the lessons.
Do you think the focus has been elsewhere on other bigger problems in the region, perhaps?
That's perhaps so, but I think inside of Afghanistan the focus has been on the military, the focus has been on the development assistance, and that's important, but there has to be this basis that can make all these efforts sustainable. And that has to do with police, justice, government structures, etc. That basis must be in place in order for all our other efforts to be sustainable and reach the people.
I mean, just from the Washington Broadcast Centre's perspective, I mean, this meeting that you're having with President Bush, what's the headline here? What are you going to be discussing?
Well, I haven't had the meeting yet, so I think I should discuss with President Bush before I tell you what I have discussed.
What do you think the US could be doing?
What is important for me is that the meeting with him and the meeting with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and other leaders here demonstrate strong support, not only for Afghanistan, but strong support for me. That is important. It gives me authority. I had similar meetings in Europe 2 weeks ago with the leaders of Germany, of Great Britain, and also of the European Union and of NATO. That's important. But I must underline, I do not see myself as a representative of a group of Western countries. I see myself as a representative of the global community. That is how I will address the issues. This is what I want to hear you. This is how I want to hear you interpret me in what I say and in what I do. A representative of the entire global community.